What is going on, Hive? Happy Sunday. Today is June 29th, 2025. Last night I popped into the Discord and I was chatting with about 7 or 8 folks from the Hive, and I just had this moment of like gratitude where it's like, this is so cool that go to a stream and then we can go to Discord and we can just talk, the 6 or 7 of us for about 30, 45 minutes. And so that, if you have not joined the Discord, I would highly encourage it. It was a great conversation. A lot of good, back and forth, just hearing everybody else's perspectives. And one of the things that I took away is that we all followed this case very closely. And as soon as you make up your mind as to what you believe is happening, and if you lock into this is the only thing that is happening, somebody will make a comment and it's like, well, that's such a good point. Because then if that's true, well, then what I was just saying can't be true. And they both make sense. So I think that that's important. And I think that that's one of the strengths of this stream and this Hive is that nobody here is claiming to have the right theory. None of us are, putting our foot down and drawing a line in the sand that can't be moved. And I think that that's a strength. A lot of times people will dig their heels in. We're kind of seeing it on the prosecution side. Actually, not even kind of. We're 100% seeing it on the prosecution side. And look at how vulnerable that makes you for people to speculate on, well, why aren't you looking into other reasons? What is your motivation or your intention? Is it really just that strong of a belief that you're right? Because anything that you've told me or showed me doesn't prove it. And I feel like with an open mind, when you see something that's completely undeniably true, any theories are kind of irrelevant at that point. And I don't know if you guys can see, I got the tinfoil hat here. Oh, I got to move the other way. I got the tinfoil hat in the background, which again, these are available on birdiebombshell.com if you want one. The reason why I have that is, well, I believe that what we just watched the defense do, the more and more that I think about these rulings and the more and more that I read through the documents, which that's something that back in the TikTok days, it was, well, Birdie doesn't read the court documents. No, I do. I've just said that I think that the court documents, while they are important for the case, they don't tell the whole story of how the case even became a case. If you don't know what happened prior to words on paper in a legal document, how do you have any context as to what these words are trying to explain in the case? So while I do, thank you so much, Jill. I appreciate that. The hive mind is the best. And while I do read the court documents, I have said it before, sometimes it takes me a little bit to understand how it is that they're applicable from a legal language standpoint. So I spent some time this morning doing some reading, and I really was trying to find in the court documents what I've been trying to say on stream as far as, was this a trap? Was this a chess move? Does it end up helping the defense? I said that a couple streams ago. So hence the theme for today's stream is to trap the narrative, expose the investigation, and then free the man. It's the art of war. You look weak when you're really strong, and you're never going to interrupt your enemy while they're in the process of destroying themselves. If you guys have not read this book, I would highly recommend it. It's phenomenal. And as Lenny just said, I do believe that Anne is playing chess. So to sum it up, I think that Anne did trap the prosecution. I think that she set grounds and built a foundation if there is an appeal. And I think that she's kind of, I'm going to say the word psyop, not in the term of what we talk about as far as the whole case being one, but I think she's kind of starting like to do a psyop on the juror's mind prior to any of the jury members being selected for this, because she's going to create a reasonable doubt right off the jump. And I have the court documents and I will explain that. But first, I want to go into a Hive Mind find, I'll give a preface. I got this Hive Mind find a handful of days ago from 11/11, and it blew my mind. However, it's not safe for work. So I was kind of playing around with it, trying to figure out how could I put this on stream. So I had to crop a bunch of pictures. There's stuff blurred out, but I thought it was super interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, let me get this a little bit bigger. You guys remember this photo here. 11/11 was saying that they were trying to explain in the chat because someone was asking about it, and then we were talking about it in the video clip. We were saying that some girls in a jail cell, they said not even close. This is a cropped and mirrored photo of what looks to be a woman with similar hair to Kaylee G, but in fact, it is not. It's actually Jordan Jones, who's an influencer and content creator for OnlyFans, yada, yada, yada. Here they are, though. The first photo you were asking about, and the others are the entire photo. If you zoom in, you can see they cropped out the image in the mirror that could be seen between them. Now, I started looking into this, and they flipped this picture, right? So you guys have seen me do that on Canva. I mirrored this picture, which would put this over there. And there's a second photo. Shoot, I forgot to put that on there. Give me 1 second. I just have to screenshot this. Give me 1 second. Now there's a second photo that's a different angle that you can see here, which is this. So it's a towel hanging rack. And when it's mirrored, it's a towel hanging rack. And you look at the shininess and the silver on the door. Shininess, silver on the door. You look at the mirror and you look here. This is all blurred out. Again, this is flipped. So what I believe this person did, whoever released this photo, they mirrored and flipped this picture, cropped out this lady here, and put her head on this side of it. Now, why somebody would take the time to do that, I don't know. I actually was able to recreate it almost to the identical point. Now, the reason why I can't do that is because these chicks are in lingerie, and I don't want to get any community guideline strikes. You guys could probably go find and Criminal Minds said he covered this a long time ago. I don't doubt that. This is, if you did, this was my first time it was brought to my attention. So, Criminal Minds, you got a video explaining that? Because if so, I'll just send people to your page to look at it. But I wanted to bring that up because this had come up in a stream again where they're like, it looks like a jail cell, but it is in fact not. So I thought it was interesting. And again, it's hard because this photo is cropped halfway. It's not safe for work. I don't know if there's a way that I could share the photos on Discord if it's not. But then again, it's like I also don't want to be posting nudes in the Discord here. It's just interesting. It like part of me thinks, is this some sort of like sick OnlyFans promotion where people are going to eventually figure it out and then they're gonna be like, oh wow, who are those girls? And they're gonna go look it up. Like, did some promoter do this? If you've ever been on X, you know there's just absolutely insane promotions for those types of links. Now, some people are saying they haven't heard this. Some people are. That's as much wiggle room as I probably have on YouTube and like the normal platforms here. So Pat Ward said, yeah. So people are saying this came out a while ago. Okay. I'm not trying to say that it hasn't come out a while. Maybe I could make a not safe for work one. That just feels a little bit weird. I'm sure Mrs. Birdie would absolutely love that. Hey, babe, trust me, I'm investigating. That's what this is. The people need to know the truth. Is it two OnlyFans creators in lingerie that people are just messing with, and we have to expose it? Maybe she'll see this and that'll like ease into that conversation, but I don't like my chances. But yeah, it was new crops and overlays. All right. So I've been trying to figure out a way how to do that one, but that's kind of the only way I could think of doing it. So there's that. Now, this is what I wanted to get into. And I believe that Ann Taylor was saying, let them deny it. That's the trap. As far as the alternate perpetrators, and I have it on the next slide, is some screenshots from the court documents, actually from the motion a while ago. It is just remarkable to see how blatantly the state is saying in these documents, okay, these are facts. This is from the motion in limine 5. So not super long ago, but a little bit ago. But I'll read this because we're going to break this down. Item 13.1 is a swab of left fingernail clippings from Maddie Mogan, Jade Miller, and an analyst with the Idaho State Police Lab analyzed the DNA profile obtained from item 13.1. She found the DNA profile indicates a mixture of DNA with a major profile, which is consistent with having come from Maddie Mogan. For her analysis, Miss Miller assumed 3-person mixture and compared the DNA profile to the DNA of several other individuals related to this case. Her comparisons provided likelihood ratio results and to show the likelihood that each person compared contributed to the DNA profile. Miss Miller then determined for each likelihood ratio result whether it supported inclusion or exclusion, or whether the likelihood ratio result was inconclusive. Now, keep this in mind. This is an expert that the defense got to get another opinion on the DNA after the state did. So keep this in mind here. Now, applying those ranges to her likelihood ratio results, Miss Miller concluded that it is inconclusive. The following persons are potential contributors to item 13.1. Jack DeCour, Cole Berenberg, Ethan Chapin, Xana Cornudo, and Bethany Funk. She also determined it is inconclusive whether Bryan Kohberger is a potential contributor to item 13.1. Now I'm gonna get out of this full screen thing here so I can zoom in, because this article, this part right here, so now these LR means likelihood ratio. Okay. Jack DeCour has a likelihood ratio of 0.399. Cole Berenberg has a likelihood ratio of 0.485. Ethan Chapin has a likelihood ratio of 3.33. Xana has the likelihood ratio of 0.201. Bethany is 0.02. Bryan Kohberger is 0.04. So we have Bryan Kohberger, who is less than Cole Berenberg, less than Ethan Chapin, barely higher than Jack DeCour, in the middle of Bethany and Xana. So right there should be like, okay, this is where I believe Ann was laying the groundwork for this alt perp trap that she said. Because right there, now it's not the state's expert, but it is an expert. And if we continue on to the rest of this document, the defense has disclosed Jennifer Bracamontes, a caseworker at Cybergenetics, as an expert witness in this case. See the defendant's supplemental response to request for discovery regarding expert witness. Miss Bracamontes utilized a different program than ISP to analyze the DNA profile obtained from item 13.1. She determined that Bryan Kohberger could be excluded from the DNA profile obtained from 13.1. The defendant's supplemental response to request for discovery regarding expert witnesses. Moreover, so now this is the state's, obviously this is in the state's response. Moreover, the mere fact the defense found an expert with a different opinion than Miss Miller's does not make Miss Miller's opinion excludable. The question under the evidence rule is simply whether the expert's knowledge will assist the trier or the trier of fact, not whether the information upon which the expert's opinion is based commonly agreed upon. Miss Miller's opinion is that she is redacted. Miss Bracamonte's differing view that defendant can be excluded as a potential contributor does not make Miss Miller's opinion excludable. For the reasons stated above, this court should deny defendant's motion. Can you imagine seeing that as a prosecutor and having to look yourself in the effing mirror and know, wow, this guy's DNA from a different expert is so different, and puts him right in the middle? She actually says Bryan Kohberger can be excluded. And you're going to say, no, well, that doesn't make our expert wrong. So we're going to push to deny this, because technically the defendant could then just discredit our expert. So they still have a chance. What a joke. What a joke. Because that's what they're making it. And I don't know if it's a legal loophole. I'm not trying to claim that I'm an expert in court docs, court cases, legal hearings, legal jargon. I have no idea. But on its face, how I interpret that, and from the research that I've done, which again, just because I'm not a lawyer doesn't mean that I can't use the internet and learn. And God forbid people continue to learn stuff after they finish schooling. It seems like it's a crime to enjoy learning. And I'm not trying to get fired up, but I look at this, and they're arguing that, okay, just because her opinion's different doesn't mean the defendant can't argue that. But we're not going to let this expert, any of their stuff that they found, actually be relevant. You guys could just know that. The jury's not going to see it, but you could just do it in your cross-examination. Exactly, Phoenix. That's what I was talking about with this is laying the foundation by Ann. It's going to end up getting him free, but it's going to also end up having no one be able to be held accountable for this shit. It's just insane. So here you go, Phoenix. Chat, or the links in the chat. Now, I want to talk about something while we got this up on the screen. Because while the defense, I believe, went in knowing that the court was going to deny it and that was going to be the trap, I don't think it was ever about winning the motion. Because if something like this has already occurred, and if you're going to present the same people, that doesn't make any sense. There's such narrow evidentiary thresholds in this case, but I don't think the goal was to get it admitted. The goal was to force the state to expose its blind spots publicly. I think Ann Taylor is, how can I say this? It's almost like Ann Taylor probably knows there's a lot of people like ourselves who are diving into this case, who have been calling out corruption amongst politicians, amongst giant corporations, amongst court systems, law enforcement. She knows that we're seeing this. She is admitting, she's forcing the state to admit its own laziness. And by denying the previous motion, by denying this motion, the court and the state are now on record saying, we don't believe there's sufficient evidence that anyone else was ever a suspect. But the defendant's DNA from our expert was not even the highest on that list. There's also no DNA on the victims, no blood transfer on clothing, car, or the apartment, tower pings that prove nothing, a car that looks like a million others, witness statements that break the timeline. So I've been trying to think, now that the Karen Reed case is over, and there's a lot of people that I think the Karen Reed case, similar to the Idaho case, it's doable, but like you kind of had to pick one or the other if you really wanted to like fully submerge yourself in knowing all of the updates. So I've been trying to think like, what is something that we could do or say or make or have a video that's like on its face, it doesn't even tell you it's about the Idaho 4. Like if you were to just say, hey, there was an expert on a secondary opinion that this bombshell DNA that law enforcement's using and used their smoking gun to arrest this guy, it actually wasn't even the highest of other people that they tested for DNA. There's no blood in his car, on his clothes. There's no other DNA in the house. There's no other DNA on the victims. He drives a very common car. There's no motive. There's no murder weapon. And he's about to be put in front of the firing squad. There is not a logically thinking person in the world that could read these facts on paper and think that justice was being served. But at the second that you put Idaho 4 on that paper, I don't know what happens. People lose their mind. I believe that Ann Taylor locked the state into their story, into their narrative. They showed that this was a single suspect investigation from day one. You got documents showing likelihood ratio from an expert that the state fought to not have be put in there, where Bryan Kohberger is not even in the top half of the list of other people that were potential contributors to the DNA on item 13.1. I think Ann Taylor knew the alt perp was going to be shut down. However, now she gets to cross-examine. She gets to, not that she wasn't always able to cross-examine, she gets to cross-examine in a way of proving and asking questions that they didn't look at anybody else. She locked the state into their story. And I believe that this is not going to be her plea of Bryan's innocent. It's going to be a plea of, is this really what we're going to say now in American courts, in a Supreme Court level for a death penalty cases? Well, it's good enough. Is that what we want? And I think that that will be a very effective method in creating doubt in the 12 jurors' minds. So, Hive, I appreciate everybody tuning in here on this Sunday. This is a little bit shorter of a stream. I got a wedding to go to. I will be in the Discord lounge later this evening, most likely, assuming that Mrs. Birdie and I don't let loose a little bit on a Sunday here at this wedding, which I don't think we will be, but who knows? Please email me any Hive Mind finds to birdiebombshell00@gmail.com. If you're a graphic designer for merch, you can also send me designs to that. The Discord link is in my bio. I will show you guys real quick where it's at here. Let it just load up. So if you go to my YouTube and you want to join the Discord, you just click this more button here. Scroll down and you just click this link. So that is the off-stream headquarters for the Hive. I hope everybody has a great rest of their Sunday. And with that, I will see you guys tomorrow at 7 p.m. with Devil's Advocates. Cheers, everybody.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day. It's a new